Good afternoon, distinguished guests, respected dignitaries, esteemed speakers, faculty members, Professor M.S. Benjamin, Dean Faculty of Law, Chairman, Department of Studies in Law, University of Mysore, and the President of today's program. Participants joining from India and abroad. As the coordinator of this program, it is my privilege to extend a warm and respectful welcome to all of you to this 2 days international conference on the legal dimension of agriculture subsidies in the WTO system, jointly organized by the Department of Studies in Law, University of Mysore, UCLouvain, St. Louis, Belgium, School of Law, Mount Kenya, University, Kenya, JSS Law College, and Greenlife Crop Technology. Agriculture today lies at the heart of the global economic governance. It shapes market competitiveness, determines food securities, influences rural livelihoods, and defines development priorities. Yet, at international level, agriculture subsidies remain one of the most debated and legally complex issues in the global trade law, particularly in the WTO system for the specific agreement on agriculture. The balance between the domestic policy freedoms and the multilateral trade disciplines continues to generate both cooperation and consensus among the nations. This conference seeks to unpack the dynamic through the extensive deliberations, which today we discuss critically the structure of the domestic supports under the amber, below, and green box classification to evaluate the dispute that shaped the WTO jurisprudence. We are also turn our attention to emerging realities such as climate commitments, green subsidies, digital agriculture, low carbon support programs, carbon border adjustment, sustainability, linked incentives, and the broader development demands of the global south. In this occasion, I extend a very warm welcome to the president of today's program, and it is my privilege to invite Professor M.S. Benjamin, Dean Faculty of Law, Chairman, Department of Studies in Law, University of Mysore, to deliver the welcome address. Sir, we are honored to have your presence and kindly request you to inaugurate the conference with welcome address. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Kudrat. Good morning, everyone. Afternoon, joining us from various countries. It is my privilege and honor to welcome you to this important conference on legal dimensions of agricultural subsidies within the WTO system, conducted by the Department of Law, University of Mysuru, Karnataka, in collaboration with UCLouvain, St. Louis University, Brussels, Belgium, Mount Kenya University, Kenya, JSS Law College, Mysuru, Karnataka, and Greenlife Croptech Private Limited, Mysuru, Karnataka. We are delighted to have with us virtually Professor Sreenivasulu N, Professor Nicolas D. Sadeleer, Professor Viswanath M, Professor Subhas Chandra Roy, Professor S.K. Chakravarti, Professor Kenneth Wine Mutuma, policymakers, practitioners, invited delegates, esteemed academics, and dear participants, and ladies and gentlemen. Agriculture remains an important component of many economies, particularly in developing countries and least developed countries. Despite knowledge-based or IT or the age of intelligence-based economy, agriculture still plays a significant role in promoting economic prosperity of nations and contributes for trade relations among the member states of WTO. But within the WTO regime, especially WTO Agreement on Agriculture, issue of agricultural subsidies continues to be a critical and sometimes contentious. WTO agreement on agriculture raises important questions about fairness, equitability, market access, and compatibility between domestic policy objectives and international trade commitment. On the one hand, countries need a domestic policy that supports farmers, ensures food security, and promotes rural development. On the other hand, WTO regime restricts member states from providing subsidies to agricultural producers and exporters of agricultural products. The contention of developed countries is that excessive agricultural subsidies will be harmful to agricultural trade and undermine a fair competition and depress global prices of commodities. However, developed countries continue to provide high level of support while developing countries lack a proper agricultural policy to do the same. This imbalance needs to be addressed. Achieving this balance is crucial for a more equitable, sustainable global trading system. With this brief background, I, on behalf of the Department of Law, University of Mysore, the Mysuru, St. Louis University, Belgium, Mount Kenya University, Kenya, JSS Law College, Mysuru, Karnataka, and Greenlife, Croptech, Mysuru, extend very warm welcome to keynote speaker, Professor Sreenivasulu N, West Bengal, National Juridical Sciences, Kolkata, India. Our chief guest, Professor Nicolas D. Sadeleer, Jean Monnet Chair, UCLouvain, St. Louis University, Brussels, Belgium. Our guest of honor, Professor Viswanath M., Chairman, Department of Law, Dean Faculty of Law, Karnataka University, Dharwad, Karnataka, India. I also heartily welcome distinguished speakers, Professor Subhash Chandra Roy, Chanakya National Law University, Patna, Bihar, India, Professor Sanjit Kumar Chakravarti, Director, Center for Law and Social Justice, West Bengal, National University of Juridical Sciences, Kolkata, India, Professor Kenneth Wine Mutuma, School of Law, Mount Kenya University, Kenya. I also extend my sincere appreciation to the program coordinator, Mr. Syed Hasmi Kudrat, for his dedicated effort in organizing the conference. A heartfelt welcome to each and every participant, members of the organized committee. Once again, I warmly welcome you all to this important international conference. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, I have the honor inviting Professor Dr. Sreenivasulu N, Professor of Law, West Bengal, National Law University, Juridical Science, Kolkata, India, to deliver the keynote address. Sir, we request you to kindly address the gathering with your keynote.
A very good afternoon to all the participants in the program. Many congratulations to the Law Department, Mysore University, for continuing with their marathon run with a number of international conferences in the past 1 year or so. Perhaps when this topic was proposed by both the Department of Law and JSS Law College, Agriculture and WTO, because not many commercials are involved in it. It doesn't come under commercial law. Not many takers, not many people would like to speak about it. And in fact, agrarian folks, they themselves don't have any voice. Right? So these kind of thoughts perhaps would go in the background of the mind of people, because agriculture sector is so neglected sector, not only in India, across the globe. Of course, in India, even today, as of 2025, first, 59% of the population is in agriculture, in the sense their families, their livelihood, or their profession is agriculture. 59% of Indians. Whereas the contribution of agriculture to the economy at large is 19%, 19, as of 24-25 financial year. So that means though almost two-thirds of the population in this country is actually working in farming lands, their occupation is cultivation, their profession is agriculture, but their when in terms of commercials, in terms of deliverables, their contribution is 19%. That gives that raises a question with reference to how exactly agrarian societies reforms can be brought in, what kind of role that the government can take up, and especially from the legal frontiers, what kind of law and policy changes are to be brought in to ensure that agriculture could also contribute considerably to the growth of the economy at large. As of August 25, in India, 37% of the GDP contribution is coming from services, in the sense your software, insurance service, banking service. Service sector is looming large, especially in the past 25 years. Not only in India, in most of the developed and developing countries, and wherein more than the physical labor, the mental labor, intellectuality, creativity would contribute, which is fetching more contribution to the economy at large. But whereas in agriculture, more than mental labor, it's physical labor. People sweat it out in the farming lands. Still, they are unable to get the kind of returns that they would like to get. And that is getting indicated in their contribution to the economy at large as well, with 19%, whatever I mentioned a while back. So that means agriculture is not yielding the required kind of results that the agrarian folks would like to ensure. There may be a number of reasons for it. Farmers say that there is no subsidy provided by the government when they go for purchasing seeds, or when they go for purchasing fertilizers, urea, and stuff like that. Or when they come out with the crop, there is no support price system in place in India. And that's the reason why most of the revenue, whatever the agricultural lands could generate, is going to the people who are into marketing, who are into brokeraging and all that, and their contribution is looming large. But whereas in European countries, or in particular US and Canada, wherein they may not be providing the kind of subsidy that we talk in terms of India, or in terms of developing countries, that when farmers go for purchasing seeds or fertilizers, we provide some 50% subsidy or whatever. In USA and Canada, there is no such kind of subsidy when they go for purchasing seeds or fertilizers. But when they come out with the crop, the yield, right, there the government would step in. There they provide subsidy, if not subsidy, support price system, to ensure that farmers gets their due, right? In the sense, whatever the actual price that crop yield would give, that actual price should directly go to farmer. No middleman, no marketing team, or no brokerage or whatever. The government itself will step in, and the government itself will directly purchase from the farmers. Or the farmers will go and give it to the government identified houses, where the government will give support price as well, and government will ensure that whatever is yield, in whatever quality or capacity it is, it will be completely taken by the government. That's the difference. And of course, that may be the reason why countries like India are having issues with countries like USA, Canada, and even European Union as well, because when it comes to WTO and agriculture, or when it comes to that agreement on agriculture, right, with agreement on subsidies, under the broader framework of WTO, which culminates more than 20 agreements in making that international trade law, or WTO law, or whatever we call it as. We signed WTO, India signed WTO, but India mentioned as a caveat that they are dissenting for the agreement on agriculture. They are dissenting the agreement on subsidies. Except that, remaining all agreement, India signed. Right? It's not that every agreement under the WTO you need to sign separately. It's one signature only, entire WTO framework. you would like to join and stuff like that. But while doing that, India mentioned that we will not implement the agreement on agriculture or agreement on subsidies. Because these two agreements, 30 years back, when this WTO came into being in 1995, and India signed it in April 94, right, almost 32 years back. At that point of time, the country was, not having this much of maturity in terms of diplomacy, or in terms of its marketing, showcasing, branding, and all that, whatever we have seen in the past 3 or 2 decades. That was not there, perhaps at that point of time. We could not negotiate much. India could not negotiate. But now, India is in a better position to negotiate with any country for that matter, including USA, Russia, European Union, right? Any big country for that matter cannot ignore India. India has achieved such kind of status as of 2025. Reasons could be many. The efforts may be from decades together, or efforts may be because of the fauna and flora that we have in this country, or the greenhouse, or the biological pool, whatever we have in Eastern Ghats or Western Ghats, or more importantly, human resources. Like China, India is having abundant amount of resources. Any other resources like material resources, natural resources, that I'm not talking about. I'm talking about human resources. I am talking about intellectual resources. When you have human resources, both the physical labor and mental labor can be put in. That's the biggest problem in Canada and European Union, including Russia also. They don't have human resources. We have abundant amount of human resources, and that has become an asset now in the current century, as far as India and China are concerned. More than any other economies, India and China are doing better because of their skilled human resources, right? And the same gets applied in the context of agriculture as well. So when I talk in terms of supporting the agrarian society, or giving an kind of a push for the agrarian folks, it what I'm trying to say also includes the kind of a skill that agrarian people are possessing naturally, as a matter of their traditional knowledge, which they have inculcated, right, imbibed from their previous generations whatsoever. And now we have the agrarian society is also having skill empowerment, or orientations, skill development, training for the agrarian folks and all. That's also taking place across India, with a number of agriculture based universities, agriculture based research center, training center, so on and so forth. But that has not actually resulted well when it comes to the contribution of agriculture to the economy, because the kind of subsidies that we are giving, right, though those kind of subsidies are actually against the broader framework of WTO. The subsidies are against the so-called agreement on subsidies, and USA has been talking about it from past 3 decades, saying that India is violating WTO. India is giving subsidies to their agriculture people, and it is discriminating other agrarian people and all that. But we never cared for it, because we had mentioned while signing WTO itself that we will not go about implementing agriculture, because agriculture is not industry in India. There cannot be commercialization with agriculture in India even now. But that is debatable, because when a farmer having 5 acres of land, 5 hectares of land, and a farmer having 100 hectares of land, different. 5 acres, 5 hectares land owned farmer may be doing agriculture for livelihood, for earning his or her livelihood. But an agriculturist who is having 50 hectares or 100 hectares, he is actually trying to do agriculture for money making, revenue. So when other people make money, tax is imposed. When big farmers are making money, corporate farming, you may call it as, right, or more than 10 acres, 20 acres, 100 acres, agrarian folks, when they're cultivating, that is not just for practicing that culture, agriculture or whatever. That is not just for ensuring their livelihood, so that you can discount the same under Article 29 of the Constitution of India, or Article 19 under the Fundamental Freedom Profession, or even Article 21, which includes life and livelihood and all that. But when it comes to big farmers or corporate farming and all, the question remains, why you are not taxing these big farmers? Don't tax the farmers who are actually having 5-10 acres of land, or the land which is not having enough water resources, so on and so forth, right? There could be some exceptions, But when it comes to corporate farming and all, horticulture and all, sericulture and all, right, which are not actually meant for ensuring livelihood or earning livelihood, even commercial cropping also. So all these categories are there within the framework of agriculture, and that is how that agreement on agriculture under the WTO tries to debate. Of course, 35 years back, we were not in a position to get into the debate because in India at that point of time, farmers were only having 5 to 10 acres of land, and even sometimes less than 1 acre land and stuff like that. But now corporate farming has become the order of the day, and in fact, Monsanto happened to come to India, and it has literally eaten that Mahiko company of India. Mahiko had been #1 agriculture company in India since decades, since our forefathers' time. Now Monsanto has taken over it. Right now, there is no Mahiko, there is only Monsanto. And Monsanto is promoting your corporate farming. And most of the seeds, fertilizers that are available now, even government supplied seeds, fertilizers for the your agrarian folks and all is actually supplied by Monsanto only. The government people only go and purchase from Monsanto, such other big corporate agrarian companies and all, and make whatever proceeds available to the farming communities. So you are indirectly supporting uh, big corporations which are connected with farming, and by actually purchasing or availing their services, you are trying to support in whatever way possible to our agrarian people by giving some subsidy when they purchase seeds or when they purchase fertilizers and all that. But as a law person, while analyzing the situation, socio-legal analysis of farming folks in India, I firmly believe that more than you giving subsidy for seeds and fertilizers, you support the agrarian folks when they come out with a crop. You purchase their crop in whatever quality it is, whatever may be the price fixation at that point of time. Don't make them to sell their crop to middlemen. Don't make them to throw their crop on the road. You give them support, right? That kind of subsidy, that kind of government supporting system, if it is established across the country, not for any one particular crop I'm talking about. In India, we follow Kharif season, Rabi season, right? That is monsoon or winter, whatever, right? In both the seasons, if a government can ensure that whatever may be the crop that you are actually coming out with, whatever may be the yield, I am there to purchase your yield. Ultimately, rather than you purchasing from Monsanto or such other companies, right? Even for instance, now this 80% of the people who are below poverty line and all, the government supplies them some grains. Now it may be rice, it may be wheat, South India rice, North India wheat, and all they supply. Where from it is coming? They are purchasing from corporate agrarian folks only. Rather than that, if you maintain in every taluk level, right, in every mandal level, if you establish your own government warehouse, right, and purchase everything, whatever may be the farming communities are coming out with, you purchase it. There itself you maintain, right, in that locality itself. Right, so you try to expand the canopy of your Food Corporation of India, which is having its warehouses, there and here. Not in every district at least, right? So there should be Food Corporation of India's warehouse in every district, and there should be sub warehouses of Food Corporation of India in every taluk level to ensure that whatever may be the proceeds of the farming communities in and around that place, that end result or that end yield is purchased. There you need to give support to farmers, not during when they purchase seeds or when they go for fertilizer and all. In fact, Indian traditional farmers, they don't like to purchase seeds from anybody. They would preserve their own seeds, right? And they will resow it. One crop, whatever they go for, there itself they preserve seeds, and the same seeds they will go for resowing, right? And similarly, more than using fertilizers, Indian farming sectors, they go for organic you know way of farming, and animal waste and all that, the naturally available fertilizers or crop support system, whatever they follow, they would like to follow. And as a matter of policy, we should try to support it, because there is no climate change issues with that. There is no global warming issues that there is no chemical mixture whatsoever. Natural farming, organic farming would take place, right? They will preserve their own seeds, so there is no commercials involvement over there when the agriculture people go for availing seeds, or are in a way you are promoting our own agrarian people to preserve their seeds of one crop and use it in the second crop. And you are promoting our agrarian people to use traditional animal waste or non-chemical based I don't even say urea, I don't even say fertilizer, crop support system. And government should come in only when they have completed the task, or when they have gone for taking the yield of the crop. At that point of time, government should come in and give support. That is how you can support the agrarian society. That is when from 19% it may grow up. The revenue generation will grow up. Number one. Number two, this corporate companies coming and selling seeds, and those seeds may do well or may not do well. You never know. And this chemical fertilizers and all using, by that the soil fertility is getting damaged, and that those chemicals are going into that crop. It may be rice, it may be commercial crops like tomato, potato, whatever, or wheat, whichever, and we are consuming it, right? So because of that, we are also having some health issues. So environment is getting damaged, land is getting damaged, people who are consuming that kind of food, they are getting damaged, right? And farmers are committing suicide because they are trying to purchase those seeds or fertilizers and all by borrowing loans and all from wherever, right? So a lot of social legal issues are coming out because of that. Rather than that, you encourage every farmer, saying that you preserve your own seeds. Don't ask for seeds for resowing purpose in second season from anybody. If required, you take from your neighbors and all that. But don't come to cities, or don't go to any commercial companies and all to purchase seeds. As far as possible, try to use naturally available resources, including animal waste or fallen leaves or whatever, right, to support your crop system. And by that, you are reducing the cost of productivity. You are reducing chemical mixture in the crops. You will be maintaining that the soil fertility, no environmental issues, no health and human health related issues and all that. And at the end of the day, government is purchasing the crop, and that is how you can grow the agrarian society. That if you are not doing that, in the years to come, maybe another 10 to 20 years, uh, people who are actually into agriculture, they will come out not only from agriculture, they will come out from villages also, they will settle down in cities, and your cities will become slums. More and more people, less infrastructure, then what will happen, isn't it? And and again, in terms of health also, people who live in rural households, in open sky, open air, places and all, their health is good, would be good, obviously, because they're living very close to nature. And people who are in cities, a lot of noise, lot of mosquitoes, cleanly issues, number of issues are there. So you are going away from the nature. That's what my point is. So let us be little natural in terms of promoting the agriculture. Let us reduce chemical mixture. Let us reduce corporations interference. Let us even reduce the government interference also, but government should give support price, or government should completely purchase that entire crop at every taluk level. And we talk about this food security and all that. Government of India brought in 2014 that national food security legislation and all, by virtue of which all below poverty line people are given free or subsidized wheat or rice and all that. For that also, you need to have more and more farming communities to get into farming lands, and more yield is required. But if you check the ground reality, for ensuring that the food security, government is purchasing wheat and rice from, not from our farming folks, from corporate farming houses. See, this is the reality. To the outer world, we are showcasing that we are giving subsidy based or subsidized wheat and rice to the people, to the masses, to poor people and all. We are ensuring food security and all that. In big forums, we talk about all that. But at the end of the day, you are not letting your own farming communities to sustain their profession. That's the reason why till 80s and 90s, 80% of the Indian population was dependent on agriculture. Now, as of 2025, it has come to 59. Okay, and at the time of independence, our agrarian, society's contribution to the GDP was more than 50%. So, what is happening? because of this, because you are going away from the nature, the way you are going about changing your culture, changing your tradition in terms of cropping, that is actually resulting in this kind of changes. Not many people are now willing to be a farmer, and if you are a farmer, you may not you may not get bride or bridegroom, whatever, to get married and get settled down in life. Such kind of pathetic situation that the farming folks are into, and that's the reason why they're coming out of the agrarian societies and coming to cities and do whatever and all, and that's the reason. But it is very, very alarming, right? At the end of the day, every living entity, every human being need staple food, and that food can only come from agriculture. It cannot come from satellite. It cannot come from mining. It cannot come from ocean, right? It has to come from agriculture only. So this is a very, very simple thing that everyone will have to understand, that we all need food, and day by day people who are producing food is coming down, but people who are eating food is increasing, right? And in fact, I agree with Baba Ramdev when he says that especially Indians eat the food that they should have consumed in 100 years within 40 years only. Within 40 years we'll eat that much of food which we could have used in 100 years. That's the reason why this obesity, sugar, blood pressure, gastric, what and all different types of diseases are coming. That's why I also agree that there is a saying also in Sanskrit. I'll try to translate the same into English. It is said that if you eat one day, one meal a day, right? You are going to be yogi, saint. If you eat 2 meal a day, right, you will be a bogey, in the sense you are well off, you are sophisticated. But if you eat 3 meals a day, you will be rogi, in the sense you are a patient, right? Because 3 meals a day, your gut system, your entire body will have to work inside. A lot of biochemicals will have to get released into, right? For example, any machine for that matter, more and more you give to that machine, it will its efficiency will come down, and it slowly it will start failing. Same thing happens with our biological machine also, right? So on the lighter note, what all these things are said, I'm not discriminating people or trying to comment on people who are a little healthy and all that, but it fact remains that we all need food at the end of the day. But the people who are actually having the skill, expertise to produce food, their number is coming down day by day because of these many problems. If you would like to support agriculture, it is not necessarily through giving subsidy. I'm not saying this because WTO prohibits subsidy. We need only support system, like it is happening in Canada and USA. In Canada and USA, farming folks will not get any subsidy when they go for purchasing seeds or when they go for purchasing fertilizers. In fact, it is indirectly discouraging utilization of fertilizers or purchasing seeds from elsewhere. India, we talk about Atmanirbhar, self-sufficient. You should be self-sufficient in preserving seeds for your next crop. Don't ask here and there. Forget about going to corporations to purchase it. So you be self-sufficient in preserving seeds for your next crop. And again, you be self-sufficient in using the crop support system, that is urea and all that, by the natural available resources, including animal waste and all that, right? Don't go for using chemicals, because that will harm the soil, right? And that will harm the climate, and that will harm the people who actually consume that food as well. So that will be in a way discouraging using of chemicals and promoting organic farming, right? So that our health is good, soil fertility is good, and environment is good. And for that, there's nothing to say. It doesn't say no, right? It is only saying that there shall not be any subsidies given by any member country to their local farmers, because the other farmers get discriminated and whatever. We never signed that agreement, or we had a caveat with regard to the agreement on subsidies and also agreement on agriculture. But still, the other side of the coin, we need to see that when we give that option to our farming folks, that whatever they produce, there would be a market for it. Government itself will come and purchase it, right? Then you see that the number of suicides that our farmers are committing, that will come down. Farmers' contribution to the economy will grow up, right? And when you discourage them from purchasing, from outside the seeds and all, the soil health will also be maintained and all that. So I see from Indian point of view, having analyzed the socio-legal scenario of our agrarian society, I believe that more than subsidy, we need a support system to the farming folks while ensuring that the overall health, including health of the soil, health of the farmers, health of the people, health of the environment, and also health of the economy is at the end of the day taken care of. And that is how we need to look at supporting, strengthening the agrarian folks, right? And this subsidy, for me, it's actually a myth. Subsidy is only a hangover. You are making them in a way. I'm not against the government policy to give subsidy for those farmers who are very weak, but don't make them slave. Encourage them for organic farming. Encourage them for maintaining for preserving the seeds of their previous crop. Encourage them from going natural, right? Then that is how you slowly, that rural economy, rural economics and all, we talk about it. No, this is how it has to be done. Because though I'm not a directly farmer, I have born from in farmer's family, and even now I regularly go to farming lands to see how my other family members do that. So I observed in my own life's experience. This is what is required for us, that instead of subsidies, we need to give support. And by virtue of that, even you can comply with the WTO's rules and regulations, or its mandate, whatever you call it as, and we can strengthen our agrarian society and all the resulted cascading effects of it, as I mentioned, health of the soil, climate, economy, and health of the people. All these things could be ensured when we go for supporting agriculture while purchase, when the crop comes out, either by government direct purchase or government giving a support system. And that is how we need to look at this social legal issue, at the same time complying with international mandate and trying to ensure that agriculture is also can be sustained, and the people who are involved in agriculture are also having their own contribution, their own respect, and their own fulfilled life, whatever they would like to perceive. So this is what I got to say as in keynote. I believe during the day, the rest of the other speakers will throw even better light, even wider light, and even go for in-depth analysis of various issues connected with agriculture, subsidies, and under the WTO system. I thank Mysore University for having me once again, especially my senior Professor Benjamin sir. And congratulations to both of them, because they produced one more PhD, and especially my young colleague, Dr. Hashim Kudrat. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your good wish and your comprehensive thought on the agriculture subsidies in India. Now, it is my honor to invite our chief guest of today's program, Professor Dr. Nicolas de Sadeleer, full professor and Jean Monnet Chair, UCLouvain University, Brussels, Belgium, to deliver the chief guest address. Professor, we are privileged to have you with us and request you kindly address the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much indeed. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, great. I'm sorry to be somewhat late, but I was on TV already early this morning. So I propose that I show immediately my slides.
Yes, please, you can share.
And given it's quite technical, I will proceed as I did yesterday. So yesterday, I've been explaining the ways in which the common agricultural policy unfolds. This policy was carved out in 1962, and it's still considered to be one of the main public policy carried out by the EU. It has, as a matter of fact, an impact upon international trade, and that policy is subject to the international obligations stemming from World Trade Organization. So what matters here is the agreement on agriculture, to which India is also subject, an agreement seeking the improvement of acceding to markets by dismantling protection measures. And these protective measures had to be converted into custom duties. So on the basis of this agreement, World Trade Organization member states undertook to implement a reform agenda that lays down specific binding commitments in three major areas that I shall comment upon: market access, domestic support, export subsidies. So I shall place the focus mostly on domestic support, given that yesterday I explained, on the one hand, the direct support granted under the first pillar to the farmers, and on the other hand, the rural development, which is deemed to be part of the second pillar. And so I shall also discuss shortly market access as well as export subsidies. So the treaty categorizes state measures and places them in 4 boxes, depending on their effects in terms of distorting trade on agricultural markets. So I shall place the focus mostly on the amber box, the blue box, and the green box. So given that the European Commission is arguing that the support measures are falling within the scope of the World Trade Organization Green Box, I shall place the focus on these latest issues. So the red box is out of the game. That box applied to support price, to measure supporting prices or subsidies directly related to production quantities. However, the World Trade Organization agreements provides for the de minimis minimal support for product-specific and non-product-specific support. So some minimal supports are authorized in as much as they are below the thresholds that you can see on the slide. So the amber box are regarded as being payment encouraging production. As a result, they are likely to distort international trade, and the fact they are trade distorting requires their reductions. So today, 32 members of the World Trade Organization made commitments to reduce their trade distorting measures falling within the amber box. So for many years, USA and the EU abandoned their support for the price of wheat, or the price of corn, or the price of meat, and they claimed that their measures were falling within the blue box. So these are decoupled payments. So it's somewhat like amber box, however, with conditions designed to reduce distortion. So we move finally to the bottom, which are green box, that are excluded from the World Trade Organization requirement to reduce domestic support. So in order to qualify, green box subsidies must not distort trade, or at most cause minimal distortions. So these are the conditions set forth under Annex 2, paragraph 1. So the programs that are not targeted at supporting a particular product or products in general and are included, these programs can include direct income support for farmers, not to products, are known as decoupled subsidies, and they can fall within the green box category. So the green box measures must abide by two fundamental requirements. They shall have no or at most minimal trade distorting effects or effects on production. So that means that the support in question shall be provided through a publicly funded government program, which is the case of the CAP. So this is a EU supported policy. And in addition, the support in question shall have not any effect of providing price support to producers. So it's so these are the two conditions to fulfill. Annex 2 of the Agreement on Agriculture lists 12 specific payment types falling into this category. I've been quoting a few of these payment types, and one understands that these payments are not related to pricing, to supporting the price, the placing on the market of the agricultural products. They include research, pest and disease control, training services, advisory service, promotion service, and in addition, there are infrastructural services related to environmental programs. So of importance for the EU is that the subsidies fulfill these two conditions, publicly funded, and have no effect on price support, and they must be consistent with one of these specific type payments. So the CAP subsidies have become determinant of farmers' income. So without these subsidies, the majority of European farmers are likely to get bankrupt. So these subsidies account for over 1/2 of European farmers' annual earnings, and they have consequences on land use decisions. But as you are aware, these subsidies have been accused of heavily distorting world trade to the detriment of farmers in developing countries. And so they have been one of the principal stumbling blocks for these last 25 years in agriculture negotiation. So the agreement on agriculture has a profound impact on the evolution of the CAP. It led the EU to abolish, on the one hand, export subsidies that were quite significant 20, 30 years ago, and moved most of its measures that were initially amber box and later on blue box to be qualified as green box measures. So as I explained yesterday, the policy underwent significant reform in 2023, and that reform was led by the negotiation taking place at a World Trade Organization level, but also by the environmental impacts of the CAP that had to be reduced. So that led the EU lawmaker, the European Parliament, and the Council of Ministers to decouple the existing direct aid from support to price. So in other words, there was a shift in the early 2000s of CAP expenditure from traditional markets and product support measures to green box compliance measures. And these measures are related to the scheme I explained, the arrangement I explained yesterday, known as cross-compliance. Just in a nutshell, cross-compliance, it's the obligation of the farmers, recipients of the direct aid, to abide by animal welfare standard, by land management standard, by nature protection standard, by water management standard, by waste management standard. And so the farmer is likely to obtain the EU subsidies from its national administration in as much as is complying with cross-compliance obligation. In addition, there are a number of environmental schemes, several of which have been watered down in the course of 2004 reform. So as one can understand, there's been a major shift from 2003. And the fact of the matter is that the 2021 framework regulations focuses to a greater extent than the 2003 regulation on the climate change issues and on the environmental issues. So that should justify to some extent that these direct payments to farmers amount to Annex 2 green box measures. The second pillar of the CAP deals with rural development. So rural development is not entirely financed by the EU funds. It's co-financed by the national funds and specific rural development funds. So the rural development policy includes not only technical support to farmers, but it includes also agri-environmental land management, nature conservation, as well as different environmentally friendly measures. So this measure can also be qualified as green box payments. Accordingly, they are exempted from the obligation to reduce domestic support. Shortly regarding export, like United States of America, the former European Economic Community has been subsidizing food export, and so these subsidized food products have been distorting the agricultural internal trade. So the agreement included a commitment by member countries to reduce the export subsidies they pay to the producers in order to avoid trade distortion, in order also to allow developing countries to promote, to foster their agricultural productions. And so the subsidized exports had to be notified to the World Trade Organization. And these subsidies were progressively abolished as part of the 2013 reform, and they fell to zero in 2017. That being said, food aid, for instance, which has been quite important under the Biden administration, is not subject to a World Trade Organization rules. Export credits are also not encompassing, are not being encompassed within the scope of the agriculture agreement. The agriculture agreement had also the impact on the third limb. So the first limb is the direct support. The second limb is the subsidies are granted to exporters, and the third limb is the access to the EU market. And so the EU as a party to the agreement has been replacing the levies previously charged upon imported produce with fixed custom duties. So these custom duties are quite high, and so they are replaced by 15, 20, 35%. Free trade agreement. And so the EU, given that the World Trade Organization negotiations are somewhat blocked since Doha, the EU has been concluding free trade agreements with Japan, with Mexico, Ecuador, Peru, also with Canada. And today I'm quite busy with the forthcoming agreements between the EU and Mercosur. So these free trade agreements do encompass a variety, an array of topics ranging from public procurements to technical controls of imports of goods, from services to sustainable development. But they include also significant chapters on custom duties. So the aim of this free trade agreement is to reduce the fixed custom duties, and that can be the case with respect to agricultural products. So the difficulties the European Union is facing in concluding an agreement with the Mercosur countries, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Argentina, can be explained by the forthcoming reductions on custom duties on soybean, or on beef products, or on chicken products. And so the European farmers are quite angry at these agreements, and that led yesterday afternoon and yesterday evening to riots in Brussels, not far from my university, to a major blockage of the city. So one could not move yesterday in Brussels. And so the question is with respect to India, is the ongoing negotiation between the EU and India regarding the conclusion of an FTA. And I imagine that agriculture is a stumbling block. The negotiation with Australia to achieve a free trade agreement failed on the EU quotas on importing beef, so the Australians could not agree with the European expectation, and so there is no treaty, whereas the free trade treaty with New Zealand has been concluded 3 years ago. So the negotiations on agriculture are taking place. In 2024, the meetings took place in Abu Dhabi, and the ministers discussed a draft text outlining a work plan for the forthcoming negotiations. However, the negotiation positions differed too significantly. States were divided on food security issues, as well as other matters, as negotiation timelines, expected outcomes, flexibility. And so that led to the failure of the Ministerial Conference number 13, no agreement could be reached. So the next conference will take place in Yaoundé, the capital of Cameroon in Central Africa. And this conference will take place in March 2026. So whether that will be more successful, that remains to be seen. So these are the comments of the former European Commissioner for Agriculture. He was regretting that despite the constructive approach of the EU and other members, the WTO members could not finally agree on progress on agriculture at the 13th Ministerial Conference. According to him, that was notably due to unrealistic demands and wide divergences of views among members, in particular regarding food security issues. The EU remains committed to a strong multilateral trading system. But as just explained, this multilateral trading system is undermined on the one hand by the new vision endorsed by the Trump administration and by the fact that the EU is intent upon concluding a bilateral free trade agreement and has already been concluding different agreements with Singapore, South Korea, New Zealand, and is actually negotiating new free trade agreements with India and Indonesia. So the question is whether the multilateral approach will survive, in particular given that agriculture appears to be a stumbling block. I could comment upon the sanitary and phytosanitary agreement and the trade, the obstacle to trade agreements. So the provisions of these two World Trade Organization agreement do complement the agreement on agriculture. So they provide reinforced arrangements when it comes to SPS measures and also to the regulation of technical barriers to trade. So the extent to which the state can reckon upon derogation to apply more stringent technical regulation or more stringent SPS requirements is determined by these two agreements. So unfortunately, I don't have enough time to comment upon these two agreements. Maybe I will have the possibility to do it at the end of January when I will come to India. So how to conclude? It seems to me that the agricultural agreement, as well as the current negotiations, although they are not giving rise to a consensus, have had a deep, profound impact on the evolution of the CAP. So in somewhat 25 years, there's been a shift from direct support to the price of wheat, of corn, of beef, of chicken, to a supported conferred to farmers. And as I just explained, the subsidies to exporters distorting the international trade have been abolished, and the access to the internal market is being made much easier thanks to bilateral free trade agreements that do reduce the tariffs placed upon importing food products. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, sir, for such deliberative discourse. Moving ahead, I invite our guest of honor, Professor Dr. Vishwanath M., Professor and Chairman PG, Department of Studies in Law and Dean Faculty of Law, Karnataka University, Dharwad, India, to deliver the guest of honor address. Sir, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I think you're able to listen to me.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Benjamin, the chairman and good friend of mine of Mysore University, and all the speakers who have spoken today. Indeed, it's always a pleasure and also quite a difficult task when we talk about food. Okay, because ultimately it comes to food. So what it all means for us across the globe as humans is the bigger challenge for all of us to understand. Is it my food or somebody's food? Should I eat or not eat? Because the entire context depends upon the agricultural proposition that we are talking regarding what we grow and what we eat. So ultimately, it is the consumption that matters. When we look into across the globe, we look into what they grow, what they export, what they import. So when this topic assignment was done to me as to what to be done regarding this agriculture subsidy, I just wanted to speak on India and Africa, just to bring into the note that how could these things, especially the Indian population and the you can see my slide.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So
Yes.
how could this India and Africa work together? Because it is considered as one of the poorest continent, and India is a developing country with a huge population. So as the earlier speaker, Professor Nicolas, was very clear trying to state that how important it is for all of us to have a meaningful trade, especially in agriculture products. So what is the difficulty that we are trying to look into? What are the challenges that actually it is there for the developing nations? So that is where I think we are supposed to look into certain aspects. So I just developed few ideas and brought up a few slides to just exchange my ideas as to what probably we are into and can we fix these issues, or it is as simple as it is that what we talk over here. Okay. So a tribute to the farmer, Annadata Sukhi Bhava, and keep moving my context of development deficit. What is the deficit that I'm trying to put it across? What does it mean? So I'm not talking, or it is not the wealth gap that we are looking into, or the richness of a nation state. It is basically the structural imbalance at the international platform, at the WTO, that we are looking into that prevent the world's most populous regions from achieving food security. These are all something what I'm trying to tell, that the apprehension that what we carry, and maybe realistic in nature also to certain extents, because each nation state is dependent on the other nation state for one or the other reason. So based upon these parameters, I'm just trying to put it across that what happens to the most populated nation states, especially when it comes into food security. Now, Africa as a continent has a 1.56 billion population and counting. And it is estimated by 2080, it may reach more than double what it is. India has 1.46 billion population as a country, and we are number one in population. We have overtaken China also. I just brought in China here just for a small comparison. That look at the population: 1.56 billion, 1.46 billion, 1.41 billion population. If you take the global population of 8 billion population, we can find nearly half of the population residing only in two countries. One is China, one is India, and one continent, that is the Africa. So it means that the half of the world is dependent more seriously on what few measures, few decisions that are taken at the global platforms. So we should be careful enough as to what we do whenever decisions are taken at the global platforms, taking this into consideration. So that is what the contention that I'm trying to put it across. So this agreement on agriculture at WTO, it states that is to establish a fairer, my question is for whom? More market-oriented trading system in agriculture by addressing and reducing barriers and trade distortion policies. Now, this is what we are more into the policies. So, trade distorting policies. Now, the question comes, who benefits from policies? So, this is where I think the entire session is on what kind of policies that we evolve to make it more convenient and also maybe happier, depending upon which nation state wants what. Okay. But I also understand that it is not so easy to make a policy which can try to benefit or convince the entire globe. But we are supposed to balance it so that the trade does not suffer, nor the people. Okay. In the contract law, normally as a law student, we tend to tell that what is an agreement. Okay. Now we easily tell an agreement enforceable by law, but it is also important the parties must agree on the same thing in the same sense. Is this missing across the WTO negotiation table? That US probably puts up its own agenda, what it believes is to be right. Maybe India also thinks that what it believes is to be right. Maybe they're not agreeing on same thing in the same sense. Is that what is missing across? Is what we are supposed to reinvest, relook into. So that is what I am into, trying to see whether are we really, as the context of understanding what is required to me, what is required to the other person. Okay. If you look at the top agriculture countries, you have Canada, US, India, China, Russia. So you have got 5 top nations who are producing the largest products, basically consumable ones, which probably considered to be the staple food across the globe. So Canada produces oat, US produces corn, chicken, cow milk, beef. China produces rice, wheat. Of course, India also do. They stand in 1 and 2 in rice and wheat. Barley, sugar beets are produced by Russia. So India also produces bananas. Okay, that doesn't mean India is a banana nation. Okay, so the context is that here, when you see this particular chart, it shows only few nation states are able to push out the product that is required across the globe. Okay, that means the world is dependent on one or the other country for their consumption, okay, which is what you call as food, okay, which is basic. So this basic things probably is trying to coerce or contradict with the nation states. Now, if you take the top 10 agricultural producing countries in the world, we have China, USA, Brazil, India, Russia, France, Mexico, Japan, Germany, Turkey. Okay, it's quite natural that you don't find any country representing Africa. China, Brazil, India, which has formed BRICS nation, including South Africa. Okay, is also looking into certain context. Now, if you just look into this 10 major countries, okay, clearly indicate there is USA, Russia, France, Japan, Germany. Okay, 5 powerful nations. You have Turkey, you have Brazil, of course, you have Mexico. Okay, and India and China. So these 5 powerful countries, which has determined certain things, maybe for a free movement of goods, which includes agricultural products, has a bigger question mark for us because is this able to balance our interest? The answer is probably no. We have a lot of questions to answer. If you look into the land areas that can be cultivated, China stands number one, USA, Australia, Brazil, Russia, Kazakhstan, India. Hardly 2.5% or nearly 3% of the land in India is only cultivable. Okay, and see, India is a global leader in food production and also an export-oriented state. It exports the food. Okay, but unfortunately, what happens that whether India has a say with such big consumption internally and also it exports, it is a major country. But maybe who takes the shots is one bigger question that we are supposed to look into. So if you look this context of land area, we also understand which countries probably stand, how much sufficient they are into self-sufficient into their consumption, production, and also for export means. This is one, I brought in that when you look into Africa and India, if you compare, of course, Africa has so many states in that, maybe 50 states around. Okay. As big as India in the context, but look at this Indian states, which state has total exports in billions in 2025. It shows each state has its own way of contributing to the nation growth, and each state is unique of producing certain goods. Okay, so it's around 48.15 billion that India gets through exports value of food chain. Okay, so if you look into Africa, the top African countries by agriculture output is Nigeria, Ethiopia, goes up to South Africa. Okay, so $1 billion. So if you compare India and Africa, you can easily make out that somewhere they are nearing as an entire continent and as India where we are. Okay, but issues are same for both of us because of the nation state what we are. So the core conflict what is probably discussed time and again, and I'm also putting across again. The rule designed this in 1986, it came up in 1994, are seen as hindering the ability for developing nations to ensure domestic food security and support small farmers. This is quite unique. Probably this is regional in nature. So, an US farmer or a US cannot decide who is a small farmer in India, whether he needs a support, or a farmer in Kenya needs a support or not. Okay, this is quite a nation issue, which is also a sovereign right on certain context. That who decides who needs support, who is a small farmer or a farmer for that particular context. Now, India, yes, raises its voice because we are the largest domestic procurement, because we are with 1.46 billion population and the internal consumption is huge. So we are not only looking into the context of our exports or trade, we are looking into the people of this country. Okay, so whether they are first to be fed, and the state is duty bound because every citizen of this country is entitled for food. He's entitled for a food, and the government is duty bound to feed them. Africa, of course, it is split into so many countries. Each country has its own way of looking around. It is still considered to be underdeveloped or developing in that context. So they need developmental needs, and poverty is definitely a major concern that we look into Africa. So we believe that the conflict is that there are this agreement is skewed in favor of developed countries. So that is what now we'll definitely see how it can be probably try to overcome this context. So the box classification from yesterday, I think people have been discussing all those things. I'll not go detail into this box classifications, but still the green measures deemed to have no or minimal trade distortion. The green, it is coated colored with green. So everything green is healthy, environmentally good, okay, attractive. Okay, if there is a green tag, it tells that it is good for so many things. But in this trade agreement, the question mark remains whether this green is good or not. Okay. So the amber trade distorting domestic support subject to reduction commitments. That is what we are looking into. The blue trade distort support that limits productions. Now the context is between the amber and blue, non-trade distortions with that of the green. Okay, and of course, we have got this 10% de minimis threshold also. So what is the 10% actually? What was in 1990s? It still remains the same across. Is a question to be considered. Okay. So what it is trying to do? It restricts key subsidies and domestic support policy sessions for developing countries. Is it so? Whether this AOA really restricts? Can it do so that tell a nation like India or somebody in Nigeria or in Uganda that you are not supposed to subsidize something to your farmer whom you believe that is required because it is your duty to do so? So you have got an international law trying to put across something that you are not supposed to do legally. Otherwise, you have got a threat to be sued, and you have got a compulsion in your own state to support somebody. Okay, you wear your duty bound by constitutionally that you are supposed to do so. This limits public stocking, price support, and income support for vulnerable population. This is a bigger challenge of humanitarian crisis that probably may happen, and of course, we also see upon, especially in the African continent, and maybe even in India also to some extent. Okay, so what is the answers for them? How do you feed them? Restraining is on small essential amber box support that directly impacts farmers' livelihood and national food security is what we are supposed to check in. So the boxes needs urgent revaluation to allow for a permanent solution on public stock holding. So that is what I am into. Okay, what is the security, food security that this nation state is supposed to give, or the African continent is supposed to give to its people? So that is where the holding of the food becomes very important for each nation state. But the apprehension is if you hold on, whether there will be a fluctuation of price at the international level, especially for the goods which are minimum required, maybe wheat, rice, sugar, something which is consumed across the globe uniformly. Okay. So this is where we are supposed to look that whether a nation country can hold on because it is required for their internal consumption. So what is in India that we are looking? So regarding this subsidies or support price, what we are supposed to give, does it fall under these boxes which distort the trading? So the mechanism in India is minimum support price and subsequent procurement and distribution, PDS. Okay, and we have seen this for ages in India regarding the PDS and also the MSP. And of course, recently there are laws which were withdrawn into, especially in the context of MSPs because farmers protested. And the professor earlier, Nicolas, told that if there is farmers writing in Belgium. Okay, so just imagine if there is a situation in Belgium where farmers come onto street and also become violent. What about a country like India and Africa is a bigger question for us, all of us, to think. So the AOA clashes, the subsidy is calculated based on the external reference prices, leading to an inflation of the subsidy value and breaching the 10% amber box limit. So the 10% de minimis limit, what has been given to us, if you look into that context of trying to support the farmers or the crop that is required to be done, mandated as per the duty of the government, it has an impact telling that you can't support because it breaches the 10% context. So India with 800 million people who are dependent on PDS and 1.46 billion to be fed, this becomes very serious as a nation state for us. So what is stored for Africa? So I am not an expert on Africa, but I tried to compare this by taking certain information. Please correct me if somebody is there if it is true. I believe it is so true also. Africa is a need-based state. We can't compare Africa and India because I strongly feel that we are much ahead of the African nation state, the continent, okay, in major factors. The African nation requires subsidies for essential inputs, maybe fertilizers, seeds, extension services, and infrastructure to develop their agriculture sector. Obviously, Africa is quite rich in its mineral resources, natural resources, but agriculture is one of the contention, probably I believe so, because it needs a support system. Okay, it needs fertilizer seeds. Maybe the country like India in 1960, what we were, food barren land today, we are one nation state standing ahead, exporting the food. Okay, we are a food basket today. So Africa is in that context that we need them to support because it is supposed to feed its people and they need support, especially subsidies for the fertilizers, seeds, and also all other facilities to develop their infrastructure, to develop their agricultural context. The measures are often, again, it falls under the 10% clause. Either it is Africa, or maybe Uganda, or Nigeria, or some other nation state in Africa, or in India. Somehow you're trying to breach the 10% limit that has been given. So it is going to result, undercut the potential for increased productivity. So what is the context that we are looking so seriously is this developed and developing world. In developed countries, under the green box, I told everything green looks good. It does not look so greener here. Okay, inside the box inside states that the European Union, the US, that indirectly influence global prices by providing subsidies. Now, how do they do? It is very simple. A nation like US, which has huge technological advancement, development in all sector, tend to infuse money into their R&D into agriculture, which India cannot even afford or think about, or any nation state for that sake. So these European nations have this context of supporting the farmers in green boxes, which does not fall into this context of distortion of trade. So this should definitely be addressed. Otherwise, it is going to divide. It's already divided, but it is going to divide much. I got just small statistics on India and the developed countries, India and Africa. Annual support farmer primary WTO box used is the green box. So it is $40,000 to $69,000, and India spends around $100 to $350 per farmer. That what they are putting across. Okay, and see, you can't even imagine the zeros that are there. Even to add a zero, your per capita income should grow. It's a dream for any nation country to have this kind of numbers to support their farming community. In India, which is not. So we are falling into the amber box where the rubbing starts. So this is what the actual figures are. So it shows that when it is uncapped, so many things keeps moving across. So many things. Okay, even I had an opportunity to visit Europe and see how, and stayed in Europe also, see how these nation states are more greener, more fresher. The farming institution itself is entirely different than what we have in our country like India or probably in Africa. This particular chart I just expanded to certain, including China, I brought in that what it is, the current, the country region, the domestic support per farmer approximately annually, and the WTO classification and context. The US, of course, it is $69,000, and European Union, it is $50,000 to $60,000 on same footing as that of US. India is around $300 to $350. African nations, example Kenya, it's around $100 to $350 per farmer. China is also as good as India. Okay, so this disparity clearly indicates that if you see the chart, how it is classified, the suffocating context is that the nation state who can put or push with all the resources which are more advanced that can support their farming system to yield more, and they have got a better opportunity to maybe send out their goods across the globe, export their goods. The same thing in India, it may not be possible because we have lesser land, more the people. In US, it has more the land, a lesser number of people. So it has advantage for them always to see that they can maximize the benefits with the land and the people and the technology what they have. And probably we are missing out in that context. Then how do you balance these issues? Can it be fixed? No, I don't know, can it be fixed? But efforts ought to be made that it should be fixed, because otherwise people suffer. It's not a nation state. It's people that who are going to suffer wherever it is. Humans will be human, what you call as an adventure that will go wrong, which may affect the entire humanity when we start pushing for these kind of things, especially in the name of trade. Now, right now, there is a temporary measure telling that you can breach the 10% depending upon the needs of your country. But the problem is that you are supposed to show what is that exempted category, where it is, what are the things. So it is as good as reporting to somebody else that what we, as a nation state, we do to maintain ourselves, our farming community, and the people of this country. So the 10% limit on PSH, that is the storage context, without being challenged legally, provides certain notification requirements are met. It is a band-aid. It's not a band-aid. It is a band-aid which may come out anytime. It does not provide a permanent solution or change in the fundamental rules of EAO. So 1995 to 2025, still we stand on the same lines. Again, maybe cease of bargaining. So many ministerial rounds has come up. I hope so we may get better results in the coming days. We need a permanent legally binding exemption for PHS that is required. And what is the proposal? The domestic support measures that are purely for food security, poverty elevation, target the poor and are not leading to significant export dumping should be reclassified. So this is where I believe that the nation state should have, any nation state, it's not only India, any nation state should have, okay, dare say that these are things that falls under this. Okay, but unfortunately, this has become a global trade, and we talk about only globalization in that context. What about localization? What is the local things that are to be taken care or to be addressed? So that is where this context comes into picture that was not leading significant export dumping. It should be reclassified. Focus should be on the outcome, maybe dumping oversupply. Of course, this also happens, dumping oversupply, and whether people agree or not, we know China does this context. It dumps oversupplies, and it knows how to probably bring down the demand supply ratio across the globe because of its context of manpower and less production rates, what they do. So rather than just the intent, domestic support also should be taken. The separate box with different rules for developmental support in these LDCs, developing countries, least developed countries and developing countries needs a development box. Or if there are three boxes now, I think we should also bring in a development box classifying clearly that what to be done. So what can be done? Advocate for a permanent, legally secure exclusion of PHS support for food security purposes from the aggregate measures of support. By calculating that aggregate measure for support, you are supposed to do so. That the context is very clear that the legal sanctions, okay, cannot threaten. So we need a legal permanent solution which can secure us that this PHS support can be kept aside. It cannot be counted into this context. So if that is done, definitely it gives a lot of impetus to every nation state, especially developing countries like India and Africa. A PSH program that meet the needs of the poor should be treated as part of the green box. A food security box within the green box. Probably, yes, that is what we are expecting to do. So conditions, of course, I'm not against the trade because we are all dependent and globalizing world. Nobody can stop things to move across. Okay, right now sitting somewhere in India, I'm able to eat kiwi fruit, or I'm able to eat a strawberry, something coming from US or in Europe, from Europe. It's all fine, wonderful. But also we should look into how we balance this. That's why we tell strict transparency and non-exportation commitments can be imposed to address trade concerns. Obviously, yes, we are supposed to address this. And of course, post WTO, it has worked wonders that nation states have been benefited because of this trade, ease of trade, and also mutual exchange. But it should be maybe more concretized, stabilizing to see that hierarchically it gets divided, not on the same scale. So that is what we are into. So the current IOA box system is a major impediment to food security and agriculture development in India and Africa. No doubt about it. I think every discussion is surrounding around that, and each one has their own ideas of putting across as to how to overcome this context. So the system is disproportionately benefits developed nation states, perpetuating an unequal global playing field. That's what the chart, what I showed, indicates clearly that where is $100, $350, and where it's $60,000, unimaginable. Okay, so and of course the dollar rate is as strong as it is, and the Indian currency is maybe scaling down, and across the globe it has that impact. So we are supposed to look into all this context when it comes into trade. So WTO members must move beyond temporary fixes and implement fundamental reforms to the box classification. So I hope that this box classification is done, probably looking or taking into the context of all these issues that are there, especially the major populous country like India, China, and Africa, or maybe to look into and understand the requirements of the nation state as a nation, and also the food safety and security of each nation, and also of the globe. Okay, so this is what I wanted to put it across. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir. We are really privileged to have you with us for such insightful address. Now, I would like to invite our distinguished speaker, Professor Dr. C. Roy, Professor of Law, Chanakya National Law University, Patna, Bihar, to address the gathering on the theme of the WTO Agreement on Agriculture. Sir, the floor is yours. Unmute.
Hello.
Sir, you are audible.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I'm trying my best. Actually,
Sir, would you like to share your slides? Or
no slide, but
yes.
just you see that
Okay, fine.
sometimes this artificial intelligence creates trouble.
Yes.
Just it was working right now.
Mhm.
Immediate problem.
Sir, you may disconnect and reconnect.
Yes, no, yeah, that I am doing. I'm reconnecting. Again, Prof.
Sir, shall I?
Hello,
Shall
yes.
I repeat?
Hello. Yes.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir. We are not having your camera.
Actually, yes.
Uh,
So today
if you
we
don't
are
mind,
going.
if you don't mind, we shall start with Professor Chakraborty. Then you try if you come out with this technical
No,
issue.
no, it's okay now. Now I have joined. So
Okay, fine.
today I would like to share our understanding.
Okay, right.
And first of all, I would like to express my regards to Professor Benjamin and his team for inviting me for this discussion. Uh, My concern is with regard to food security in India and WTO measures. So this food security in India is a major issue, and uh, under this agreement on agriculture or WTO regime, we very well know that in India we have around 60% of the population below poverty line, and even the government of India is sending or distributing 5 kg grains free of cost. This is a major issue, and it means that we whether we should be whether we should withdraw from agreement on agriculture. This is a question which is a demand from different corners. The reason behind is that before Uruguay round of GATT agreement, which culminated into agreement on agriculture and WTO, what was the situation in India? Indian situation was different. We were however, we were not self-sufficient on food grains. But agriculture is a subsistent, it is a livelihood for the people of India. It is not for commercial purposes. And population is very high. uh, and it is increasing. Now, almost we are the highest populated country in the world. And maximum people are depending, even around 70% population depends on agriculture. And in this situation, the agreement on agriculture has opened the market, that now the European countries, US and other developed countries can have access to market in India. In this situation, what will happen? That what is the situation? Three boxes they have created: agreement on agriculture, that is amber, green, and blue. Green, it is a lot infrastructure related. But what about amber? There is a class that the government of India, unless provides support to the farmers, it is very difficult that the farmers can sustain in the competitive market. They can produce in quality and quantity and compete with the and cost and compete with the foreign import. As we see that when India had QR, quantitative restrictions made on this import, then the matter was put by US in WTO, and India had to withdraw that quantitative restrictions. So this scenario is quite unfavorable to the Indian agriculture. At the same time, the TRIPS agreement under the WTO, it is also not favorable to this country. See that it says plant varieties and farmers' rights, and India has legislated Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act, uh, and this is sui generis. However, but the thing is that now what farmers are there? Whether the farmers, they have right to make a seed, but what is happening? I would like to draw the attention before this, that how high end variety of seeds are being now used, and how the traditional seed has been withdrawn almost from the houses of the Indian farmers. In 19, when there was a introduction of the green revolution in India, a high yield variety of seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, they were introduced, and Punjab and Haryana became the food ball of India, grain ball of India. And still, slowly it entered into other parts of the country. So their slogan was that there should be high yield variety of seed, and these seeds can uh, fill our belly because we have to eliminate poverty. So the farmers also came into this, that if there are more grains, then okay, we will be self-sufficient in foods security, as well as we can sell the produce in the market, and our economic condition can improve. But the condition but it happened reverse in the sense that slowly high yield variety of seeds entered, and gradually the traditional seeds were out of the houses of the farmers. Earlier, the farmers were keeping seed out of their produce. They were reselling, sowing these seeds in the next crop season, and in this way they were sovereign in the seed. But now the farmers are purchasing every time seed from the market. And who is the supplier? It is surprising that Indian agriculture universities and companies, they are producing not more than 30% of seed requirement of the people in the case of grain as well as in the vegetables and fruits. Whereas these 70%, around 70% of seed, it is being supplied by the foreign companies. And if the foreign companies stop selling these seed, high yield variety of seed, then Indian agriculture will become, it will slash down, it will collapse. So this situation is quite grim. Therefore, agreement on agriculture is not favorable to this country, especially that it talks about that MSP, minimum support price, MSP should be withdrawn. There should not be support. Let the farmers compete with the foreign developed farmers, European farmers and American farmers. Whereas the American farmers, USA and UK, EU, they are providing subsidies in different way. As a magician, they are converting as a welfare measures. Now the government of this country, India, has also started sending money direct to home to the people, direct to the farmers. That is nothing but that is in indirect way. It is a subsidy to support them, because the government is not giving any subsidy to the input of the agriculture, such as fertilizers or water or on diesel, petrol, because if there is no rain, then farmers have to uh, uh, irrigate their pump out earth water, and then it is irrigated and the crops are produced. So all these situations are quite unfavorable to this country, and there is a great challenge over the Indian government, that how to manage the food security and seed sovereignty. There is a clash between the two, and livelihood security also. As we see that MSP, minimum support price, is also essential. As if it is not so, then and it is allowed to compete in the market, then what will happen to the industry, to the employees, to the workers? Whereas, so there is a requirement of balance between the two, employees and the food producers. And third, the challenge of the foreign import, because we have to open our market. We cannot close our market. So, and as well as it is because that we are exporting also. Therefore, international trade in the agri business, it is essential. So all these situations are quite negative. As we are providing minimum wages, likewise minimum support price is also essential. But WTO view is different in this regard. So the domestic situation with respect to the this agreement on agriculture is uh, unfavorable. So the mechanism that is that agreement on agriculture, it's yes, that is a landmark agreement. that initiated the reduction in the farm subsidies, trade barrier, that there should be a fair, competitive market. But unless and until the agriculture is a strong one, how can it compete? As we see that in India, there is a issues related to land reform. First, secondly, high, density or population growth, and there is the crop. Yeah, farmlands are also very small one. Now it is in pieces. So the small farmers are unable to compete. They are unable to maintain their own household consumption requirement. So this is a challenge. And there is also abolition of export subsidies. Government of India was providing export subsidies. But in this export subsidy, it is said that it is against WTO mandate. That if you are giving support to the people by minimizing, then again it is a problem. And from where there shall be export subsidy? It is from the taxpayers' money, public fund. So again, the taxpayers are under problem. So this is one issue. So but we are facing, India is facing dumping, that issue of dumping. When the EU and the US, they are providing some sort of help to their farmer, they are in a position to export their goods into India, and they are cheaper. And this is why our consumers will be, our farmers are under problem because of the dumping of the so many items, so many food grains that has to be checked also. So yes, WTO tries to address market efficiency, but efficiency is not possible unless a person is strong and healthy. So Indian agriculture economy is quite in a low condition because of fragmentation of the plots and increasing number of population and lack of support. At the same time, lack of technological agriculture, agriculture with technology. And most of the important problem is the lack of seed sovereignty and scientific development, as the European countries are and US countries are. So the challenges are there, tensions are there, that developing nations like India find WTO rules are disproportionately uh, disproportionate. And one issue I would like to say, that climate change has created a great challenge, great threat to the Indian agriculture also. Sometimes heavy rain, sometimes there is no rain. And that the government is planning to connect the rivers, that the water may be, if there is a flood situation in one area, that water can be channelized to another area, but it will take time. So this climate change is affecting the crop season, as well as it is demanding more pesticides. If it is the more pesticides, again, there will be issues related to pollution, health of human being, as we see that in Punjab. What is the impact of a wild variety of seed, fertilizers, and pesticides? Many people are ill of chronic diseases because because with water all these things go into the soil as well as in grain and it atmosphere also. So our fight or our struggle is diverse, multifaceted. We have to face different issues. So uh, in this way, I think that this what to do now, the issues related to is that what to do, whether India should remain uh, in the agreement on agriculture. I think that it cannot withdraw. This is the issue. It cannot withdraw. It has to remain in this uh, organization. But at the same time, India will have to have manage the farmer support in respect to the fertilizers, in respect to the pesticides or biopesticides, in respect to the minimum support, minimum wages to the workers, with respect to the minimum support price at the purchasing price also. The government is purchasing grain. Of course, government is purchasing grain, but 100% grain cannot be purchased by the government. It has go to the private market. And so market is also less in number. In India, we see that in agriculture areas, less market and less purchasers. So the purchasers make monopoly. And in this way, the minimum support price at the time of purchase, it is also is not successful. So all these issues are serious issues. And I think that this workshop is a very, very significant one, which is trying to highlight the problems of World Trade or Agreement on Agriculture under World Trade Organization. So the legal issues are that we are the signatory, we have to do that, and but the original and factual issue is quite different, and that issue is related to the basic issue that how the farmers can be trained. Nowadays, there is a diversification of the crop. Now from grain to people are moving towards vegetables and fruits and other things, but the storehouses are less in number. They cannot store, and you see that vegetables and fruit they destroy very even a few days. So the storage, cold storage, it is also essential. So infrastructure, and India is a developing country, so it requires foreign direct investment. And if it is so, in agriculture sector, there is a foreign direct investment. Again, there will be monopoly, and our economy will be in jeopardize. So India should not allow in this sector. Rather, it should start its own leg, self-sufficiency. And this is why the government of India says Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliance, it is essential. So I think that these issues should be taken into consideration, and the discussion that how to mitigate this problems related to food insecurity, problems related to the agriculture production, seed production, and access to market, domestic support and subsidy. It is a sense. Many people say that now the government is giving direct transfer to the farmer certain thousands of rupees. Yes, it is in the nature of subsidy, but the government will have to train them that how to use that money in their agriculture sector, how to make it productive. It is also essential. So all these things are, I think that uh, uh, these are relevant to the discussion on agreement on agriculture, and I think that now the floor should be open for further discussion. Hello, sir.
Yes. Is there any questions pertaining to the discourse what is made by Professor Sirai from audience? Okay, seeing none, we shall move forward. Now, I have the pleasure to invite Professor Dr. Sanjit Kumar Chakraborty, Professor of Law and Director and Center for Law and Social Justice, West Bengal National Law University, Juridical Sciences, Kolkata, a distinguished speaker. Sir, we request you to kindly share your valuable perspective with the participants.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Respected Benjamin sir and Syed Kudrat, I want to thank you personally for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to share my thought on that very relevant topic. You have framed that is legal dimensions of agricultural subsidies in the WTO system. Now, before I go into the topic, just let me mention two things. Number one, I was going through the website of Reuters today. There is a huge clash going on between the police force and the farmers of Belgium. And the title of the news is that Belgian farmers in anti-trade protest clash with police. So this is an incident which is going on now. Another incident that in the year 2020, Indian government introduced 3 farm bills. That is Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act, the Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Act, and the Essential Commodities Act. And ultimately, there was also a huge protest around the border of Delhi. And ultimately, the government has to withdraw the 3 farm bills. Now, the topic that is agreement on agriculture, I must congratulate and I must appreciate the endeavor made by the University of Mysore that you are selecting the topic which are hardly debated, by any other organizer. So, I am participating for last 2-3 conferences, and I found that the topics are quite unique, and the topics are those topics need to be discussed. Those topics need to be debated upon, so that we can get some sort of information, and on the basis of the information, we can make informed decision. So, under the broader theme of this particular conference, I have chosen the topic, or I have framed the topic in that manner, that is revisiting the agreement on agriculture, a global justice perspective from Indian constitutional vantage. I repeat, that is revisiting, as Subhash Chandra Rai sir, Professor Roy sir, he just mentioned that, can we avoid this particular agreement? Obviously, we can't, because this is a part and parcel of this WTO adjustment, or the WTO settlement system. Now, this AOA is a part of WTO, and obviously we are the signatory of this WTO. So it becomes an obligation, to fulfill the mandate of this particular AOA. Now the question comes that, as a student of law, justice, and globalization, I also, I'm trying to take a some sort of broader perspective, that how this global standard, actually the AOA is nothing but to formalize or to prescribe a global standard so far the agricultural trade or agricultural production is concerned. So here what I am trying to do, that I am trying to take this topic and analyze it from the constitutional dialogue, because it transcends the technical compliance, as well as it enters into the realm of fundamental legal orders which are prevalent in the country. So my presume is that, or what I am presuming, that is the presumption, that the World Trade Organization agreement on agriculture must be understood not merely as a trade compact, but as a transnational legal framework that directly interfaces with the domestic constitutional order of its member state. So, that is a very broader perspective. Now, let me give one example, I think which makes quite clear the entire argument about the AOA. India is a member, just for for an example or analysis of the AOA, that India is a member of the WTO, and many Indian farmers, as Roy sir already mentioned, that they are poor, they are marginal. In India, agriculture is not treated as an industry, rather it is a practice, etc., etc. Yes, we agree. So most of the farmers are poor, and they depend on their agricultural product for their day-to-day livelihood. Now, in order to help them, what the Indian government does actually, the Indian government fixes a minimum support price, which popularly known as MSP, for rice. Take one example, for rice. And the government buy rice from the farmers at that price. And that rice purchased by the government subsequently distributed through the public distribution system. And FCI plays a very major role in it. The government distributes this food at a very affordable price to more than 80% of the total population in India. Now take as another example, that is a country maybe called Y, which is a rich country. And this country also helps or intends to help their farmers. What the country does actually, or what is the practice of the developed country, they give them money directly, okay, even if they do not sell their crops. So it is based upon the some sort of study, that is the ownership history of their land, and whether they are cultivating or not, that is immaterial. But having land or ownership, having the ownership of the land entitled them to get certain money or to receive certain money from the government. Now, the core principles actually, there are different box system under the AOA. Due to the shortage of time, I'm not entering into that discussion. But according to the box system, or the traffic signal or the lighting system, the government intervention, that is the MSP, as carried out or practiced by the Indian government, according to the claim made by the developed country, that it is a violation of the WTO rules on agriculture. On the other hand, their claim is that when we are giving money directly to the farmers, there is no violation of the rules of AOA. Now, the question is that intention of both the government, is same. Indian governments also wants to help its farmers. The other country, they also wants to help the farmers. But the mechanism is different. Government is purchasing the crops cultivated by the farmers and distributed it to the people in affordable price. On the other hand, the government of a rich country, they are sending their money directly to the farmers. And they are saying that it is a violation of the norms as prescribed in AOA. Now, I don't want to discuss these things as a story of disobedience, but I want to bring the discussion of the constitutional fidelity. That means how the constitutional provision, how the sovereign state, bound by its supreme legal text, that is the Constitution, navigates its equally binding international commitments when they pull in opposing directions. I agree, that there are some inconsistency, between the AOA and the constitutional mandate. But I'm trying to argue that India's engagement with the AOA represents a critical test for the very possibility of a just multilateralism. That means a system that accommodates the different constitutional vision set out by the different countries in their separate constitution. So what I am trying to do, or I am going to do, first I will establish that there is a non-negotiable constitutional foundations of India's agricultural policy. We can't go for any sort of negotiation because it is mandated by the constitution. Then I will try to diagnose a little bit the operational legal contradictions which exist within AOA. And third, that is at the end of my presentation, I will try to propose a path forward in the legal principle, that is the constructive fidelity or the constructive multiculturalism that can flourish the different systematic reform within the different countries. Now, without any detailed discussion, I think all of us, whoever are here and listening this, all of us, we know that as Roy sir rightly mentioned, right to food, etc., etc. But here I am just taking this perspective that if we look into the preamble of the Constitution, that the socio-economic and political justice, and more specifically the social justice and the economic justice. So Indian economy is an agrarian economy. Primarily, it is an agrarian economy, and the agricultural sector is the largest employer. That means the largest number of people are engaged in this particular sector. Now, if we look the Constitution preamble, fundamental rights and directive principles together, it gives a conclusion that there is a constitutional mandate that that we have to make some sort of discretionary economic choice. Actually, we can't do whatever is mandated by someone else. Try to understand that in the era of globalization, everything is very much influenced, and our law is not an exception to that. So there are, these bodies like WTO, these are the very much supranational entity. Sometimes, it appears that they are sovereign rather than the sovereignty of the Indian Parliament. So our Supreme Court, take the example of 2001 decision, that is People's Union for Civil Liberties versus Union of India. There the court specifically said that right to food, it is a fundamental right within the meaning of Article 21. And this judicial pronouncement converted the food security from a policy aspirations into a justiciable component of fundamental right. Okay. Actually, before this judgment, through directive principles, through the preamble, we could have interpreted right to food or food security within the legal ambit. But this decision, it makes it as a enforceable right under Article 21. Look at directive principles, like Article 38, that it says that you must secure social order for the promotion of welfare. Look at section 30. Look at Article 39B. It says that the state must direct its policy towards securing the ownership and control of material resources, subserve the common good, which includes the land. Okay, land reforms. Look at Article 47. It says that the state is under a duty to increase or to raise the level of nutrition and the standard of living of its people. And all these are the state's primary responsibility. Now, what we did actually as a nation, what we did, since it is a mandate, constitutional mandate, we have the law. For example, the National Food Security Act, NFSA 2013. And the NFSA is a legal document, which ultimately gives some sort of right to more than 800 million of citizens in India, to have subsidized food grains. The operational heart is the public procurement, and this public procurement, it is done by the government with minimum support price, and this minimum support price is it is determined by the government. Okay, It is not very much, a technical one. Rather, in order to support the farmers, in addition to the sector specific, for example, the fertilizer subsidy, electricity subsidy, water, etc., etc. This minimum support price actually is the main thing, for the farmers, because they get some sort of assurance. Now, if we look into the federal structure of the constitution, now agriculture, it squarely comes within list 3. Actually, it is not in the list 1. So, when it is within list 3, that means it is a subject matter of concurrent list. Both the state government and the central government, that is union, government, can make the law. So the primary legislative and executive competency of our agriculture, it rests with the subnational state governments. And India's agricultural policy is thus inherently, it is federal and plural in nature and not monolithic. I want to repeat that since it comes within the purview of the concurrent list, from the very beginning itself, the Indian national agricultural policy, it is very much federal and plural in nature, and it is not monolithic. Now, the constitutional forum or the quartet, that is fundamental rights, directive principles, and right-based statute, as I have already mentioned, that the National Food Security Act, and the federalism. These 4 things form some sort of inviolable legal ecosystem within which any external treaty, including agreement on agriculture, must operate. Am I right on this point? Or are you getting my point? What I am trying to say, that there are 4 aspects. One is the fundamental rights, directive principles, right-based statute, and federalism form. That is, it forms an inviolable legal ecosystem, and within this legal ecosystem, any external treaty, including the agreement on agriculture under WTO, must operate. It can't go beyond that. Now, where is the contradiction? Is there any contradiction? I have identified 3 contradictions. There are many contradictions, but for today's discussion, I have identified 3 major discussions. Number 1, that the right to food versus the trade distorting subsidy. The core of this normative clash is that the National Food Security Act and the MSP system in India, these are chosen by the government in order to fulfill so many constitutional goals, including right to food, as articulated under Article 21. But if we look into AOA, using the methodology which was developed during 1986 and 88, that is known as the external reference price, it is juridically recharacterized the very procurement of the market price support, and continuously, there was an argument that it is against the amber box limit. The Indian state is thus placed that it is an impossible legal position to comply with the AOA technicalities, because the AOA technicalities require that we must, lower down, or we must severely cripple the operational mechanism of the law enacted to fulfill the fundamental rights. So the Pitt's treaty law against the constitutional law, okay, I repeat, so the Pitt's of the treaty law against the constitutional law in a manner that it challenges the very basic structural doctrine, that the judicial principles of the constitutions is the core features which are to be adhered. Now, another problem or contradiction, that is the federal compact, as already I mentioned, that it comes within concurrent list. It is a federal compact. Agriculture in India, it works as a federal character. It is already in a federal character. And on the other hand, WTO, it creates some sort of centralized WTO liability. Here, international law, maybe, it was not the intention of the treaty, but ultimately this international law disturbs the domestic constitutional structure. That is, a government in India, say Punjab or Madhya Pradesh, acting within its constitutional power may enhance its supports for the farmers. However, under the AOA, the subnational action aggregated into the Union of India's compliance calculus. Now, the Union Treaty making power, which is the power under Article 253 of the Constitution, it is the power of the Union government. It is not the state government. That means the Union, India as a nation, it can make law in order to fulfill any of its treaty obligation under Article 253. So ultimately, it becomes a very larger issue, within the country itself, and it creates some sort of coercive centralization that undermining the federal balance, which was identified as a basic structure in SR Mumbai versus Union of India 1994 by the Supreme Court. Now, another contradiction for today's purpose is the dispute settlement lens and the ground reality. Dispute settlement, WTO is very much famous because of its dispute settlement mechanism. It has the enforceability, some sort of enforceability. Now, here I want to mention one case that is known as India Measures Concerning Sugar and Sugar Cane. This is titled as DS, Dispute Settlement Number DS 579. What happened in this case, actually, just within a very few seconds, let me explain it. That in this case, the Brazil, Australia, and Guatemala, they initiated a proceeding against India's sugar policy, challenging the export subsidy, and it alleges that the manner in which the government is giving some, export subsidy, it goes against the WTO principles. Now, the panel, the dispute settlement panel, examined whether the challenges scheme fit within the prohibited or the export subsidies or resulted in domestic support exceeding the commitments. The panel reports recommended the remedies for certain schemes. The dispute crystallizes the legal mechanics. However, procurement, buffer stock, and the domestic marketing assistance are treated under the AOA rules. Now, what is the takeaway or the analytical point here? The analytical point here is that first one is the legal technicality, that how to account, how to classify, because the accounting measures, in their country, that means the developed country, and the accounting measures or the accounting procedures in our country are not the same. Similarly, the classification of the product is also not the same. And the second point is that power politics, that how a major exporting members use dispute settlement to discipline the domestic support of the competitor countries. That means there is some sort of political economy, or that power politics is coming in. Now, ultimately, these are the from the viewpoint of globalization, then the international treaties and the domestic constitution, if I discuss and if I think in that manner. So I think these are the three major areas where the AOA is appears to be a little bit problematic. So I am not obviously in 21st century, in the year 2025, I think none of us, we can say that, okay, we don't want to be a part of this so-called global economy or this globalization. Because, as a human, the contemporary time, the state also can't live in isolation. It is not possible. And this social solidarity, if we go through the sociological theory of law, that is the Leon Doggett postulates the idea of the social solidarity, that law is nothing but to maintain the social solidarity. That is to be applied from a broader spectrum. So here I want to put, or rather I want to propose, that can I go for some sort of constructive fidelity or that constructive understanding? Actually, what is this? The AOA under WTO and the legal mechanism, that is the domestic legal mechanism, yes, there are some contradictions. Here, rather than saying that no, I will not abide the terms and conditions of AOA, can we go for some sort of constructive understanding or the constructive arrangement, so that all the nations who are participating in this particular treaty, all the nations, they can get or they can take the benefit out of that. So when I use the word that constructive fidelity, it involves remaining within the legal system while relentlessly advocating for its own evolution to address and correct the inequities. It operates through three channels. Number one, that is the pursuit of interpretive correction through negotiation. We must always go for negotiation. We must always go for interpretation. Even at many times I discuss that the TRIPS in relation to IP, many scholars, many people, they says that it is a minimum standard. But the question is that how to use the flexibilities provided within the TRIPS. How can you interpret? Similarly, if we look into the Article 31(3)(a) of the Vienna Convention on Law of Treaties, actually there is a provision. It clearly says that any international treaties required to be interpreted in a harmonious manner with other relevant rules of international law. Now look at that right to food. It is a recognized right under the Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, of which India and most of the WTO members, they are the parties. That means if I, that is the VCLT, Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties, if we take this particular article, and if we think, and if we take this core argument that right to food or this food security, it is one of the aspects which has been accepted by the majority of the people, then obviously there is a scope for further interpretation and continuous negotiation. And the third way, that is articulating a doctrine of permissible diversity. One size doesn't fit all. This is one of the very common criticism against globalization. So here we can do, that AOA, Agreement on Agriculture, in principle, I am agreeing with the terms and conditions, because like any other sector, this sector must be formalized. Okay, there must be some sort of legal structure, global legal structure for this particular sector. But this legal framework must recognize the legitimate diversity. And when I say legitimate diversity, I actually mean three things. Number one, that we must be given an opportunity to create a sui generis legal category. Professor Roy, he was talking about the Farmers' Right, Plant Variety Protection and Farmers' Right Act. Now, Plant Variety Protection and Farmers' Right Act, it is a sui generis legislation in India. Okay, we adopted, by virtue of Article 27(3)(b) of the TRIPS agreement, either by patent or by any other legal system or any combination of that. So we adopted this sui generis system, and this is a law as per our own requirement. So can we go for this type of legislation? Actually, the three farm bills, in many, to a large extent, actually, it was a sui generis, it was an attempt to frame sui generis legislation. Maybe, the proper consultation process did not take place. That is why there is some sort of mistrust or misbelief in between the common people and the government. But I think these three families, more specifically the first two, it was to a large extent initiated by the government to addresses many of the issues reflected through the AOA. Then the price benchmark which has been set out in AOA, that is the 1986-88 benchmark, it should be revised. Okay, it should be revised, and it should not be applied in a distort manner in order to affect the financial autonomy or the financial profit of the other country. And the third one, that the operationalizing the special and the differential treatment. Now we have this differential treatment, a special differential treatment, this provision is there, but it should not be treated quote unquote as a charity. Rather, it must be given as a matter of right, because our socio-economic background is different. That is why law can't be uniform or law can't be similar just like the other developed country. So that temporarily, that structural legal principle, there must be structural legal principles in order to operationalize that special and differential treatment. Now, on the basis of this, within this very short span of time, because this AOA, it is a very I must say a complex subject. It involves law, political science, economics. Okay, it is not merely a legal problem. So, but within the very short span of time, and on the basis of that argument, if you can understand on that particular issues which I have raised, I have, I want to conclude by saying that from the Indian constitutional vantage, the crisis of the AOA is a crisis of legal imagination. I want to repeat, it is a crisis of legal imagination. It is a system struggling to account for the fact that for some members, agriculture is a sector of commercial competition, while for others, it is the very terrain on which the constitutional promises of justice and dignity are realized. Our collective task is to rebuild that imagination. We must work towards a multilateral trade law that sees the Indian farmers not as a unit of production to be disciplined, but as a right-bearing citizen. I repeat, right-bearing citizen whose livelihood is protected by a constitutional covenant. We must envision a WTO where the National Food Security Act is seen not as a compliance problem. Okay, because now it is being seen as a compliance problem that we are not complying to AOA. So I am proposing that, or rather I am suggesting for reimagination, that we want to have a WTO where that NFSA should not be treated as a compliance problem, but it can be treated as a model of a state fulfilling its fundamental duties. So India's journey with agreement on agriculture is in essence a struggle to expand the moral and the legal horizon of the global trading system. It is a call to move from a narrow legalism of discipline to a broader jurisprudence of just accommodation. I am taking the help of Sir Professor B.S. Chimney. Okay, that we do not need a legal, narrow legalism of disciplines. Rather, we need a broader jurisprudence of just accommodation. And in the end, the legitimacy of any international system depends not on uniformity it imposes, but on the justice it permits its members to pursue for their people. We do not treat any international treaty as good or bad, or the value of the international treaty is not determined on the basis of its strictness, not on the basis of its uniformity, but on the basis that how it is going to help to render justice, because law is nothing but an instrument through which we have to ensure justice. So let us revisit, reinterpret and reform, not to weaken the agreement on agriculture, but strengthen it with the enduring principles of equity, sovereignty, and human dignity. With this, within a very short span of time, I tried to give a very broader reflection, more specifically the constitutional mandate and the international treaty mandate, and where is the contradiction and what can we do. With this, I want to stop here. If you have any question, any query, I'll be happy, to answer those questions. Over to you, Benjamin sir. And at the end, I must thank Benjamin sir for giving this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir, for such analytical discourse on the topic. Now we are looking to invite Professor Kenneth Wayne Mutama. Sir, did you join us? Professor Mutama? Professor Kenneth.
Okay, sir. If there is no question for me, may I leave with your permission?
Yes, please. You may leave, sir. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Right. I think due to the technical issue must be Professor Kenneth Mutama has not joined us. So let us conclude today's program. Now, good evening, everyone. It is with great pleasure to close the first day of the 2 days international conference on the legal dimension of agriculture subsidies in the WTO system. I have an honor to deliver the word of thanks. First and foremost, I would like to express my deepest appreciation to Professor Lokanat N.K., Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of Mysore, for his unwavering support and visionary leadership. His guidance has been cornerstone of the success of this event. Thank you, sir, for being the chief patron of this program and giving us the opportunity and supporting with your permission. A special word of thanks goes to the Srimati M.K. Savita, K.S., Registrar of the University of Mysore, for her constant encouragement and for gracing us with being the patron of this program. Ma'am, your support played a crucial role in success of this conference. We are also express our heartfelt gratitude to Professor K.S. Suresh, CE, JSS Law College, Mysore, and Dr. Vasant Kumar Timakapura, Managing Director of Greenlife Science Technology Private Limited, being our esteemed patrons and collaborated with us. And similarly, I would like to extend our sincere thanks to our President of the program, Professor Dr. M.S. Benjamin, Dean Faculty of Law, Chairman, Department of Studies in Law, University of Mysore, whose leadership ensured that the smooth running of this conference. And sir, we are grateful for you, for your guidance and thought throughout the coordinations. Our heartfelt gratitude also goes to our keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Sreenivasulu N, Professor of Law at West Bengal National University of Juridical Science, Kolkata, for his insightful and thoughtful provoking as a keynote address on the topic. We are also deeply honored to have had Professor Nicolas de Sadeleer, full professor, and Jean Monnet chair at UCLouvain, St. Louis, Brazil, Belgium, as the chief guest. Sir, Professor Nicolas, your insight to the topic and perspective on the legal dimension of agriculture subsidies in the WTO framework was enlightening, and we are thankful to you for your generous contribution to this conference and being always supporter of our program at the University of Mysore. Similarly, a special thanks goes to our chief, distinguished speaker, guest of honor, Professor Dr. Vishwanath M., Professor and Chairman of PG, Department of Studies in Law, Dean Faculty of Law, Karnataka University, Dharwad. Sir, your session on the development and deficit on the agreement and agriculture, particularly in the region of India and Africa, was both informative and timely, and we deeply appreciate that your insight you shared with us. I would like to also thank our special guest, Professor C. Rai, from Chanakya National Law University, Bihar. Sir, your session on WTO agreement and agriculture was not only rich in content, but also offered a new perspective on the challenge and complexities of agriculture subsidies in global system. So a special note of thanks goes to Professor Chakraborty, Professor of Law at NUJS Kolkata, who has spoken on the various aspects of agriculture and relevancy of the topic for the today. Finally, I would like to extend a sincere thanks to all our participants, both from India and abroad, who has given their attention and active engagement throughout the session. Your participation has been crucial for making this program successful. We are deeply grateful to our partner institutions, St. Louis University, Belgium, Mount Kenya University, Kenya, JSS Law College, and Greenlife Crop Technology for their collaboration and support. We would also thank our organizing team, volunteers, and technical support here. Your efforts and dedication have been truly commendable. Thank you, one and all. Thank you so much.